Good morning, everybody, and welcome to IGTV. This is a production of New York City Metro InfraGard Members Alliance. We have with us today Gary Kibel from Davis & Gilbert, D&G, attorneys at law here in New York City, and we are going to be discussing privacy once again, and this is due to an FTC final ruling. Gary, good morning, and welcome to the program. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Well, Gary, why don't you walk us through this? I know D&G has just put out, and you've actually authored an article on this this latest finding on privacy from the FTC. Why don't you get in and start us off on it? I don't want to chop away at your time here.
Sure. Thanks very much. This is an update to a preliminary report that came out in December of 2010. In that report, the Federal Trade Commission was outlining their view of how privacy for consumers can best be protected. In the period since the December 2010 report, they've accepted comments from the public and just came out this past Monday with their final report about protecting consumer privacy online. There are a couple of big themes that come out of the report. There is the concept that is being embraced by the FTC called privacy by design. What this means is they expect all companies and organizations to build privacy protections into their products and services from the ground up, meaning that privacy is not an afterthought. You don't build a service, put it online, and at the last minute throw a privacy policy on the website. It's really integrating privacy into the entire product to understand how best to offer consumers choice and control over how their information is going to be used. Within that, there are a number of things. Again, a number of big themes is that privacy information should be simplified for consumers. Choices should be simple and transparent so that it's not an all or nothing proposition, that consumers are able to use a service and determine how their data is going to be used. Think of a Facebook where you have different privacy settings within the application. It's not simply that all your data will be shared or you can't use the service. There were a couple of other themes that the FTC was concerned about. There is certainly a big concern about the tracking of consumers online for purposes of serving targeted advertisements. Think about when you go to a website. The website may know that you visited similar websites and are interested in certain products or services. They've developed a profile on you, and ads are served based on your individual profile. The FTC wants to have what's called a do not track feature, where users can choose not to be tracked for these purposes. You will still receive interactive ads online, but they won't be specifically profiled based on who you are. Another common issue is about how choice is given to a user. Do we have to inundate users with pop-ups and options and menus all the time, every time they do anything online in order to get their privacy choices? And the FTC realizes that there are some practices online that are what's called commonly accepted practices, for which you don't need to inundate the user with different choices and menus. For instance, if you buy a product online and enter your personal information for shipping, it's pretty clear that the company is going to use your data for shipping purposes. So a disclosure would not be necessary then. Back in the 2010 report, the FTC actually laid out 5 specific practices that would not require specific choice. There was a lot of uproar from the industry saying that you can't specifically identify which practices require choice and which do not. So now the FTC has come back with a flexible standard saying that it really depends upon the context of the product or service that's being offered, the relationship between the consumer and the business, and that's how you determine what type of choice is necessary and how granular and detailed the options need to be.
Well, Gary, we've got about 30 seconds left for this segment. Why don't you take us through just the end piece here, and then we'll pick up on the next segment.
Sure. So this report had some very high-level principles that apply to every business, no matter whether you're selling music online, or you're selling shoes online, or you simply just have a website collecting email addresses. There were some very, very high-level principles that every business can comply with. After the break, we'll talk about some specific industries that the FTC is focused on because they're concerned that they haven't made enough progress.
Okay, folks, that's the music's coming back on. That's the end of this segment with Gary Kibel from D&G. We'll be back right after this message. Stand by now.